Welcome back, everyone, to our video series where we talk about all things spiritual, metaphysical, and cosmic. I'm Peyton, and tonight we are talking about the energetics of relationships. So, if you have been struggling in your relationship, whether that is with family members, with friends, with romantic relationships, and there is so much of this going on right now, you are not alone, first off. But second of all, tonight we are going to take a look at some of the energetic reasons why that may be happening. But before we dive in, if you are new to our channels and are just checking out our videos for the first time, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our weekly video releases. We release a new video every Wednesday to help you on your spiritual path. So tonight we are talking about energy and relationships. This is one of the most challenging parts of the ascension process, is growing and evolving with the other people in our lives, especially when we don't all grow and evolve at the same rate. And not everyone wants to grow and evolve. And that inevitably puts strain on all of our relationships. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the energy behind that and how you can use some of your energy tools to relieve some of the strain that your spiritual journey and growth might be causing in some of your closest relationships. So to kick us off tonight, I'd like to start with you, Yaila. What are you seeing with energy strain in relationships as we move through this ascension process as light workers and people on a spiritual path?
Yeah, thanks. This is I think for my personal ascension journey and what I see my clients and my students move through, this is probably the hardest part about your ascension process is the dynamics, the energy dynamics of your relationships. Just like Peyton was saying, people grow at different times. Some people don't want to grow. Some people don't want you to grow. So there's a lot of different variables that play in. But what I see, this is kind of that, it's almost like that semi truck that hits you where your relationships just shift. And a lot of times it happens when you least expect it. It's a very surprising thing because if you think about it, when you're on your ascension journey, energetically, you are changing. Your body's trying to catch up and then life around you is trying to catch up. So just imagine, other people on their own energy process and their own time and place, they're also trying to catch up to their own bodies and their own life. And then when we intertwine, it can be a little chaotic. So what I have seen for my students and clients, it's as they start to ascend, as they start to really connect with reading energy, getting comfortable about talking about energy, doing healing sometimes, all the different modalities that you might experience in your ascension process. In the beginning, you personally feel like a fraud. You feel like, am I just making this up? Am I crazy? Is this just my imagination? Is this real? And then as you're kind of learning it for yourself, you're starting to see real life examples of things actually changing and shifting, and you start to believe in yourself a little bit more. You start to buy it more, but you're the first one that sees that. So just imagine through your own ascension process, you got to have your own confusion in the beginning. So when I think of people in my life or my students' lives or my clients' lives, they're just trying to play catch up too. And they're not seeing all the stuff that you're necessarily doing or experiencing or learning to understand. Because sometimes we can't even explain what we've been doing, what we learned, what we shifted, how much we shifted, because so much changes and can unfold, weeks and months at a time from, a certain healing or a certain reading. And then, weeks and months later, there's this big shift. And so it can be a very fluid process, meaning you don't always know the exact beginning. You don't always know exactly where the middle is or the end is. And so relationships can really have a hard time in this process. And you'll discover that in your ascension journey, sometimes you've been saying yes to things in your life or you haven't had healthy boundaries for yourself, or there's just been so much other energy in your space, meaning from other people, from certain type of upbringing, from society, from your job, from all these other sources. And once you start to clear that out and you start to find the core of you, you start to discover that sometimes those things are no longer in alignment. And that is really, really hard when there's other people that are impacted by that. And so you'll possibly run into conflict of other people whose values are still there, or they're still comfortable in that space, but it's no longer comfortable for you. And so in the process of the energetics of relationships, a big thing is really learning how to trust yourself first, really connecting to your own heart, to your own energy, understanding what actually feels good, what feels in alignment for you, versus something that you're just basically raised to do, or you've been taught to do, or this is acceptable to do. There's a lot of things that we allow in our space that we weren't consciously choosing. And so when you start doing the energy work, now you're starting to consciously choose what you want in your space and what you don't want in your space. And that is the biggest, it's challenging just for us individually, but then of course for the people around us. And so, thinking about the relationships that you do have, some of them are family relationships where it's like, they're your family, regardless of what journey you're on, they're still your family. Or, even friendships, it's like there's sometimes a lot of history, and sometimes you just have to come to terms with, is this still in alignment or is this no longer in alignment? And I know my personal relationships, there's been friends that, kind of phased out along my ascension process. And then there's friends that have phased back in. And so, it's kind of up, really, who knows what will happen as far as the relationships go. It's just really dependent on what you choose is in alignment, and where the people around you, what they feel aligned to. But the biggest piece is really just coming from that place of love, coming from that place of trying to just be as honest as possible, just speaking your truth. And the people who align with that will align with you stronger. And so I think that's just the biggest place to start when it comes to the energetics of relationships, is trust yourself more, speak your truth more, and you'll naturally align with the people who are meant to align with you more often than won't align with people who are not supposed to.
That's great. That makes total sense to me. It being flexible too, and realizing it's going to change, I think, is a big part of the process. What about you, Corey?
Actually, I'd love to hear what you have to say, Peyton.
Me? Okay.
Yeah.
This is such a huge and important topic, because we're all feeling it, I think, in all of our relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, family, especially over the past year and a half, as we have moved through these timeline shifts. We are making decisions about what timeline we are going to be on for the future. And those of us who are on ascension timelines are aggressively stepping up, our energy work and our spiritual practice. And that inevitably starts to show cracks in those relationships with people who are not making that same choice. And so I have relationships that fall on both ends of the spectrum. I actually, when I started out on my spiritual path, came from a very different world. I was corporate girl, a recovering attorney. And so when I first started to find spiritual material and start out on this process, I was very secretive about what I was doing. I held everything to myself. I would listen to my little Abraham tapes, with my earbuds so that no one could hear what I was listening to, and I'd hide my books. And so I didn't try to force the information on anyone else, because I had very mainstream family, friends, extremely mainstream profession. And it just would have been too much, really, to start, so I just didn't share it widely. I kept it to myself. Like you were talking about, there is a learning process as we go through it ourselves to start trusting this material and really start living our lives by it. And so when I first started out, I didn't share it widely with a lot of people, including my husband, who was also very mainstream. But I was fortunate in that relationship that as I grew more into my spiritual growth, even though he was farther behind on the journey, or wouldn't consider himself to be on a spiritual path probably at all if you asked him, he always had a sense of humor about it. And so it was just that crazy thing that his wife did. And he could laugh at it and he wasn't judging it, but it wasn't his thing. And so I didn't force him to talk about, aliens and spiritual processes. I just did my thing and shared it when I was asked. And I think it really helped us continue to grow together. We've now been together for a very long time. It helped that I didn't try to make him share my enthusiasm in it. I think if I had forced it on him or tried to make him share my interest in it or go to conferences or listen to the, Abraham around the clock, anyone is going to feel a little threatened when they feel like something is being forced on them. And so I think that helped me to, in my main relationship, to survive some of the ascension stress, was just to realize this was my thing. And I could stand and live in my truth without having to force it down the throats of everyone around me. And I found that to be a successful tactic for me. The less I forced it on other people or talked about it when they weren't interested, the more they wanted to know what I was doing. Then they would ask. And when they're asking and coming to you, they're coming on their own accord. They're much more receptive to the information. So my guides had told me, don't force this on everyone. It's not for everyone at this point in their journey. And that was really helpful to me in my relationship with my husband, because not really so much his thing. But now, as I got more involved in it and started learning all the different modalities, he would start to ask me to do healing on him or do Reiki on him. And then he could see the results of what I was doing. He had a really bad rotator cuff problem. And I did Reiki on it, and it removed all the pain that he was feeling. And that kind of changed his perspective on this whole thing. He's like, well, that is just useful. And so when people come to you on their own pace and when they're ready, you get a very different reception. So, the more you can just respect that everyone is at a different place in this path, can help you if you're struggling, especially with very close relationships, to realize not everyone is going to share your enthusiasm for it, that you can live your truth without having to make everyone share your excitement for it. But I also have relationships where I have family members who are not coming on this journey. They have no interest. And so what do you do with the people in your life? Because you were mentioning, Yaila, family relationships. A lot of us have family members who are not coming on this journey. That is just not their choice as souls to, and we all are on different soul paths. And so what I have had to do in family relationships is love people for where they are. Love them and let them live their own journey, realizing that that is their personal choice. And that's hard for us because sometimes we have to step back in relationships and just love them and hold space for people who aren't choosing to come on this path. But once you hold them in love, then the right thing happens. Either the universe will bring them closer to you in a different way and you see a different version of them, or you may separate, for a period of time, or just have a more distant relationship. So I think being patient with people and holding them in love and recognizing that they are where they are can help when you seem to have those relationships where it's just not resolving. So those are kind of my experiences with how this journey has played out successfully and less successfully in relationships. So what about you, Corey?
I love what both of you ladies shared. And okay, we're done with this video. No, kidding. Brilliant, done. No, actually, I love what you both shared. And one of the things, Peyton, like you mentioned, was, this journey is not for the meek and mild. And I actually had asked Peyton to, share a little bit of that experience with her husband, because it's wonderful. I love, Peyton, that you shared about, not forcing it down everybody's throat. And I have learned in this journey that, in the beginning, yeah, you do. You get excited about what you're learning. But very quickly, I did learn, like, who cares and who doesn't. And in this journey, also, realizing that we signed up for certain things to learn on this earth plane. And that actually gave me quite a bit of relief, in the sense that, every soul signs up for their journey. My belief and what I know to be true is that everybody signs up for certain things, and that it is it can be heartbreaking, when you have people, family, relationships that you really want to come with you. But the relief that I did find when I discovered that everybody has their journey that they signed up for, it did make it a little bit easier for me. It did. And didn't mean that it didn't hurt any less, but that it wasn't my fault. It wasn't all my fault. But yes, in the interim, realizing that there are certain people you share it with, and some people you don't. I love, Peyton, how you did say that you just didn't say anything about it. And that's actually where I've come to, with relationships in this journey, is I don't say anything. But when people ask, I'm more than happy, to share what I know. And always to remember to have compassion. The ascension journey has taught me to have, and I see with a lot of, students and clients, that it does teach us a lot about compassion for ourselves and uh, all the other human beings or other beings on this planet or in the universe. And so I've I've always been a compassionate person, but it really changed it. And when I allowed somebody to just have their journey instead of dragging them, literally like lassoing them and saying, no, come with me, you know, dragging them, it didn't work too well. But when I just allowed them to come to me, that, it's attraction rather than promotion in this spiritual journey. And people can't help but see how you've changed, and as Yaela said, some people are okay with it, some people love it, some people don't. And the hardest thing actually for me was letting go what no longer served me. And that whole saying really of what no longer served me, for me felt really selfish. But over time, you know, it's not selfish. It's just self-caring. And actually, if you really love someone, you have to set them free, because we all have free will. And but it is the big topic, really, because we relationships in the energy world, in our energy and relationships, it's a biggie, because sometimes, yeah, um, our loved ones, whether they're friends, family, intimate relationships, so can't go, choose not to go, or it's just not what their soul signed up to do in this lifetime, but to love them anyways and show them compassion. I've always had a hard time letting go. Ooh, but this journey has really helped me to let go, because everybody has their free will. And when realizing that, when it came to relationships, was such a big help, such a big help. But boy, I'll tell you, there is a few people that I left claw marks in, not wanting to let them go. You do that a few times, and then you realize, yeah, maybe that's not a good idea.
So true.
Yeah.
The Pleiadians actually gave me an interesting explanation for this that had never occurred to me. They said, as you guys, as light workers who are doing so much work on yourselves, one thing that we don't realize is we're raising our frequency so fast that it's actually physically uncomfortable for the people in our lives. Their body reacts to our growth and it makes them uncomfortable. And they don't have the vocabulary to know what to do with that. They just know that all of a sudden they're uncomfortable because our higher vibration is going to bring up any lower vibrational energies that they haven't integrated. And so the Pleiadians explain it that it's good to give people in your life a break because they actually have to adjust to your frequency because they have no idea how to do that. And so it can help us a little bit if we think of just giving someone space, you know, because they actually have to adjust to us as light workers raising our frequency so fast. And that had never occurred to me. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. So they say it can be good to take breaks from like friends and, you know, people that you want to be closer with, but who are kind of a little resistant right now, that they just need a little time sometimes to adjust to how fast we're growing. So I thought that was an interesting kind of take on it.
Yeah, I love that,
That's
Peyton.
great.
And even when you're saying how, you know, you kind of kept the stuff that you're doing quiet, I was the same way. And I just lucked out where my best friend, she happened to start going down her own energy path. And we were doing it for years. I mean, I was literally in this work for years, not telling a soul about it, just because I was still learning what it meant for me. And you know, finally, I don't even know how it happened, but she started talking about something. I'm like, oh yeah, me too. And then we both kind of like, we've been doing it for a while. And it was just so cool to have that bond. And just like you said, just I give people space. And, you know, before I wouldn't share that I am intuitive or do healing or energy readings, or I teach the class. Before I wouldn't even share that at all. I wasn't comfortable in that space. But going through the process, now that I've learned how to be more comfortable with it and like what I do and just trusting more of the journey and the path and, you know, more connected to why I'm here. When I realize when I'm more comfortable with it, I can say like a tiny little thing. And then if people ask about it, cool, I'll share more. If they don't, cool, I don't worry about it. I don't take it personal, you know, like you're saying, Payne, I don't shove it, you know. I think that's the biggest part is wherever you're at, let people be where they're at. You don't have to force them to know anything. You don't have to force them to agree with it. You don't have to force them to like it. It's going to unfold. And the more you just start learning how to trust what you're getting for yourself and really ground within your own energy, other people will start to adjust. And like the more comfortable you are with it, the more comfortable they will be with it.
Exactly. I don't tell all this to my Uber driver.
No.
Let these people in. Yeah.
And yet, oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying it can be threatening to people who it's new to them. And so a lot of people, when they're new to this journey, can feel rejected by people in their life. And that's a very painful thing. And so sometimes keeping it a little quiet and kind of releasing it gently can kind of give other people a chance to adjust to something that's very foreign to a lot of people. We're very excited about it, but this is really can be very out of left field, especially if you come from a more traditional, more mainstream background, which I certainly did. You know, it took, you know, everyone time to kind of adjust to it. But now even some of my most conservative, and I came from a very conservative, very Catholic background. Now even my family members are asking me more about it. So everyone just needs their own time. And the more patient we are, you know, give people time we didn't share it right away out of the gate. So give them the same time to adjust. Can help.
Yeah, that's the compassion. You know, that's the compassion, having compassion for others. And I loved how you shared, you know, that, yeah, I've noticed, yeah, some people are very uncomfortable around me. And I love that you said that, you know, and realizing that that's what it is. Our vibration changes. And it was just like when we started doing all the energy work and started working with some of, you know, the spirit guides or ascended masters, and in the beginning how uncomfortable that was just because it was unfamiliar.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is, that unfamiliarity. Yeah,
it's very foreign to people, and I didn't realize it until I had two friends say things differently. I had one friend told me that she had to stand back farther from me because my energy made her dizzy, And I had another friend who told me, she's like, you're vibrating so at such a, she's like, you give me anxiety just being with you, because it brought up her, she's like, it brings, and she was just very honest with me. She's like, it just brings up my stuff. She's like, you were just lit with happiness. And she's like, that's making me nervous. So I didn't realize the effect it had on other people. So it's good to get that feedback, because now I can tone it down, be more sensitive to the fact that it might be bringing some things up in people. So
yep. I try to ground people. Especially like if I'm out in like public and it's people that don't know what I do, because I've gotten that too, where I've been told like I've been told I'm intense, I've been told I make people anxious, but then I've also been told that I'm very healing for some people, so it just cracks me up. So I just put everybody in their own little energy bubble. I ground them, I keep my energy, and usually it's a little bit nicer for everybody. I'm just doing like all these little healing energy work all the time. Sometimes they know about it, sometimes they don't. They're like, I always feel so good around you. I'm like, yeah. I just gave you your energy back, it's all good.
It's like Corey said, compassion for where they are, compassion is what it comes down to. So yeah, I think really
how you met. I was gonna say, I loved how you mentioned it though, Peyton, about how making other people uncomfortable and your friends telling you that. And it doesn't matter how long we're on this journey and the ascension, there's always things to learn. Because for me, I think intuitively, yes, you do. I know that. It was just the way that you worded it tonight. That it's like, yeah, that's what it is. You always feel it. And that's what I love about. And I've always said it's important to have a group of, friends like we have our girlfriends that we can always talk to. Those relationships for me have been so important on this journey, is the ones that, you go to class with. That's why we talk about going to classes, because you do get to be around other people who are like you. And those are the ones that at times you need to go to, or your teachers, right? That understand and explain it to you and help you with the relationships. But to have some of those safer relationships that you get you and you're going through it all together and you're like, oh my gosh.
Share the crazy.
Yeah.
Share the crazy.
And amusement. Share the crazy and amusement, because
yeah,
we're all just figuring it out.
The more you laugh about it, the more you take the pressure off of it. That for my husband and I, it's so funny because we always go back to just laughing about it. And it has let him, he gets to come on the ascension journey without having to do the work. So he's pretty happy about it.
So like, okay. His soul contact was very, very wise to sign up with yours. Like, she'll do it. I'll just ride. We'll just ride. We'll coast it with her.
Smart man.
We also too, we talk a lot about being in joy and amusement, and sometimes it's not feeling so amusing. But if we can find just that little bit of amusement, it helps to break that energy and raise the vibration again, so that it doesn't it's not so traumatic, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very important to have a sense of humor and amusement.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I hope we have given you a quick overview of why you may be starting to struggle in your relationships, and some things to think about to help you move through some of the ones that might be giving you more difficulty right now. This is a natural part of the ascension process. We're all finding our way through it. And if you want to see more on relationships or have more questions or topics you'd like us to address, let us know in the comments. Reach out to us on social media. We do this for you, so we want to make these videos helpful and useful. And we know everyone needs help with relationships right now. So if you would be so kind, please like this video, share it with anyone you think would be helped by it. And as always, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our next episodes. Thanks for joining us so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.